I am Erik Wenninger, entomologist at University of Idaho in Kimberly. So we have been monitoring potato psyllids throughout Idaho for the last 3 years. We started this in 2012 with a relatively modest monitoring program with about 14 fields. In 2013 we greatly expanded it to over 100 fields. And in 2014 we had about 90 fields across the potato growing region of the state, where we monitored weekly for potato psyllids using yellow sticky traps, as well as on some sites vacuum sampling and leaf collection to look for eggs and nymphs. Basically we have been finding fewer psyllids each of the 3 years. So 2012 was the first year that we started monitoring, and we caught by far the most psyllids during that year, despite having fewer sticky traps out there. And most of the psyllids that we find are in sticky traps. We find a lot more in sticky traps than vacuum samples or other methods. We find very few psyllids actually colonizing the fields. As far as with our leaf samples, we find almost no eggs or nymphs in most of our samples. So again, most of the psyllids, or highest numbers of psyllids found in 2012. 2013, again, when the monitoring program was greatly expanded, we didn't find quite as many. 2014, psyllid numbers were down quite low, so we found, I think, a total of 170 or so over the season this past year, whereas we found well over 1,000 each of the previous 2 years. As far as the incidence of the bacterium, that also was much higher in 2012. It was something like 26% incidence of the bacterium during 2012. During 2013 and 14, it was more like 2.8%. So psyllid numbers have been gradually declining the last 3 years. Incidence of LSO has been lower on the last 2 years, but actually more similar to the percent incidence that you would typically find in other growing regions throughout the country. So we plan to continue monitoring at least one more year. We have additional funding to do that, and we'll see if the pattern continues, or, as you might expect in a system like this, you're probably going to find fluctuation from year to year, so we'll see what happens. We also report the monitoring results through weekly updates that go out to our growers, and they use that to make insecticide application decisions. So we feel it's been very useful helping growers, especially this last year, to avoid spraying when not necessary, because the psyllid numbers have been quite low.